All right, and we're good. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the 22nd episode of the Game Junction Podcast with our special guest, John Hancock. How's it going, everybody? The Immortal. Not, no, glad to have you joining us for sure. Yeah, I've been driving too much today. Other than that, I'm pretty good. Yeah, so as far as like news, okay. Yeah, you got a different format for me, so I'm still trying to. Didn't have, unfortunately, a lot of time to prep. So we're gonna go over, just asking Hancock some questions. So like, exactly what got you into gaming, I guess. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, for sure. It sounds pretty unique. I mean, it seems like you've been collecting gaming longer than I've been alive, so yeah, you got some experience in it. No, it's definitely good.
Yeah, I think that flea markets for me had a pretty big impact with the collecting because I the same sort of background for me was always collecting stuff. My dad collected Superman comics. He would go
Okay.
from like one collecting to another. He would go get a big Jeff Gordon collection, even though he didn't watch NASCAR. Uh,
Okay.
so stuff like that. My mom was always like the knickknacks, and she collected like unicorn stuff, and just kind of got that like both me and my brother and sister all collect something. So
It's cool.
same sort of deal with me.
Okay. Hey, Brandon, can you keep moving on? I just want to make sure there's not a technical issue, real quick.
Yep. So what was your first system, and is that system what got you into collecting?
Want me to start, or
Yeah.
are you bouncing? So okay, so
Yeah.
yeah. So the first console, well, it was a Pong clone, the Radio Shack TV scoreboard my dad brought home, and I had to go to my cousin's later on to play an Atari. So we essentially had a generic Pong console in our household that I'd play with my brother, and when I beat him, he would turn the console off because there was an on and off switch on the actual um, controller. It's kind of a weird looking unit. It looks like a early walkie-talkie with a dial, and then the second player's little sidecar controller that extends out. It's they're pretty common. My dad probably got it fairly cheap, but when eventually we got a Nintendo. But going back to answer your question, did that get me into collecting? I think just the fact that you could play something and collect it really drew me into collecting video games. That's what's really kind of hooked me, is that, oh, well, these other action figures and stuff, half of them are in the package. And I can open them up, but then it's like, you know, I have them on my walls. I use it as decor. Right. And when I got together with my wife, I was collecting action figures and games. And my wife, you know, she was very respectful, and really I could collect anything I wanted, but she says, I thought about like super focusing on one of them. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go all in on video games. And so that's really how I started pursuing my NES collection. And I was collecting some other things along the way, Odyssey 2 being of all things. But yeah, it kind of snowballed into that. And, you know, that started in the early to mid 90s, and 30 years later, 34 complete collections and craziness. So it's been a journey, let me tell you.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, Brandy, how was that for you? What, as far as like looking back at your first system, was that relative to you start collecting? Was it a much later thing? I'd love to hear that.
I would think that, I guess I always had that interest in video games playing back then, starting on the Nintendo Entertainment System and then my home console of the N64. Yeah. But it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I just started like kind of going crazy and collecting different variants and worldwide sets and store displays and like all of that type of stuff. That was obviously like much later, but that's only because I didn't know that certain things were available.
That you could even do that, yeah.
That you could even do that type of thing, and then, you know, people reaching out to me, you know, specifically when they'd see something posted and then asking more about it, that kind of, you know, had me jump into it. But I obviously, I guess, like a different time frame type of thing. But if I was born much sooner, I still think I would have had probably way even more, you know, type of, you know, of a collection.
Right. I mean, I know that Mark's, he's probably like the least collector type of guy, which is okay. Yeah, he collects what he plays. He doesn't go all in, which I respect that. Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
I was thinking, because I was kind of thinking about this earlier. I kind of switch back and forth sometime. But what do you think? I'm sure you've completed it by now at this point. But what really is like your favorite systems? Not just one, but what are your favorite systems and handhelds?
Systems, handhelds, both. By far, it's Sega Genesis. So Sega Genesis has always been my favorite. I love to collect it. You know, completing my North American set. I have several of the variations of the box variation. I'm still missing some of the uber rare stuff. But that by far has been a great fun journey, and there's aftermarket stuff forever. So that's number one for me. I do like collecting Game Boy. I don't have a set or anything, but I have probably about a third of the loose Game Boy set, and that's some fun to go for. I have lots of oddball stuff I like to pursue. Really did enjoy collecting N-Gage. I'm known to have a complete N-Gage set. That's pretty tough to get with a store kiosk and some bunch of other weird promo stuff. That's fun. But, you know, Sega Genesis is number one. I do enjoy collecting like NES, so complete NES collection, just a loose stadium events. Probably never have a box one. Dreamcast has been a lot of fun too. That's been great. When it comes to handhelds, though, going back to that, really did enjoy collecting Neo Geo Pocket US. And so because I worked at a GameStop when that came out, and that like bombed within 6 months, so I was able to get at cost a near US set. I actually bought it used from a friend that bought a bunch and like, oh, this is not going to make it. And then what's crazy is the blister packs that came out way later that they were selling. Those are worth bucks now if they're complete.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed collecting that kind of obscure console, but really Sega Genesis is the easy answer of anything I've ever collected. And then for vintage stuff like 2600 boxes and stuff and pre-Nintendo stuff, I still like to pursue when I can find it. But it's getting pretty tough to find that stuff in the wild that's like crazy expensive that I'm missing. So it's like, oh, I'm missing that game. Oh, it's $1,000. Okay, never mind. It's like that usually goes in that like sequence. So
yeah, right.
I enjoy it. You know, I'm kind of planning. You know, my phase now is, you know, I've announced on my channel we're getting a large planning to move forward with a museum I've been talking about a long time, and so have a potential physical location, and I'm next couple years I'm going to be finalizing and working on that.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Work.
That's awesome. I did want to acknowledge a few comments here. I was missing over those, trying to go back and forth. I've only got one screen. We've got Jake saying he wanted to swing in here and holler at his boy Brandon. Keep it up. Gotta go. You're killing it. Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. Mackenzie. Everyone else but him. I'm not sure what that was directed at. I may miss
Yeah, I just
something.
want to say thanks, Mackenzie, for pointing out the audio issue that I had set up. Everything's good now, though.
Yeah, it's all good.
Awesome. Miss Schools saying, how's everyone doing? And we got Eep here. He's saying, I'm here now. You can start saying the interesting stuff. So, talking about that, I did want to acknowledge that I'm also going for an N-Gage set, and I actually had that when it came out, so it kind of holds a little bit of a special place for me. 2 games away from that set, but it doesn't get talked about enough, and it's obviously because it's a phone too. But I've always enjoyed that system a lot. I think it's got some cool games on there.
What would be
Pioneer in cell phone gaming.
Yeah, it was really cool for sure.
like what was
Something different.
What's a good N-Gage game then? Because I don't know anything about the N-Gage.
N-Gage. So the best way to describe what an N-Gage game would be is take a vertical screen. So think of like a vertical shooter arcade cab.
Yeah.
Take that screen and put it on a cell phone. So it's like a long aspect ratio for the screen to begin with. But
Yeah.
if you have that screen and cross
Take
a
note.
Game Boy Advance with a PlayStation 1, if they had a baby, it would be an N-Gage game. Early 3D gaming with some sprite base. There's a lot. There's the X-Men 1 and 2, not bad games. The Elder Scrolls made a game that's super expensive now.
Is that the I want to say that's
Pocket,
Shadow Key.
Shadow Key, yeah.
I know they made 2 weird spin-offs. I thought they made another one that was on a phone that had to do with like the pirate, like a pirate game almost.
There was a Java-based
I don't
phone
know.
game, but you
I didn't know
can't
which.
play it now.
I don't know where it
obviously.
was at, but yeah.
You got the Tony Hawk game.
Yeah.
You know, you have
Tomb
several.
Raider.
And they're like, you know, early 3D gaming that's not bad. The problem is that taco design that they went with the first gen.
That Model
what
1, yeah,
were
terrible.
they thinking? It was just horrendous. Like, it looks ridiculous.
Talk on it like this.
But they were the pioneer. Yeah, side talk. You literally, when you talk to someone, it's like this. It's like holding your
Yeah.
iPhone like this.
So it's like they shot themselves
ridiculous.
in the foot to start with, pretty much.
Yeah, and the QD came out was much better. It was too late, and you know, GameStop was clearancing them out at like $3.
Yeah.
And so
Super
I got 2/3 of the library that way. But the problem with it is about a third of the games were only sold on their store online,
Yeah.
and some of them were like a blink, have stock, blink, it's gone, and then nobody
That's
talked
crazy.
about the N-Gage until, you know. Fast forward 10 years, forward people with disposable income. I want to go back and get something that I had. There's a South Korean market of Nokia collectors that people collect it. And so it gets it. Anyways, I could go on and on about
But it also
It's
seems
like,
it also seems like you're like from 10 years after, you got smartphones starting to come around and mobile gaming starting to like pop up and just kind of was probably the natural progression regardless. But
yeah, and people want to go experience the early. It was a pioneer. It was a huge
Yeah.
pioneer into mobile gaming.
Physical
and it doesn't get
cards
enough
for
credit.
a cell phone is crazy. Yeah.
It was a
For
huge
sure.
pioneer. Doesn't get enough attention and credit, but the games didn't suck. Getting to play games is kind of challenging, and finding a working unit's getting tougher, and battery issues and all that.
yeah. So we
Yeah,
just.
there's-
Oh no, you keep going, Brandon.
I was just going to say that there's a game that I absolutely love that never got ported, Pathway to Glory, which was like an RTS style game, and then it got an exclusive Sonic game, sort of exclusive, Sonic N. So
No, what I wanted to
to-
say was we got a comment for John from How to Game Differently. I guess it's like a 2-part question. He's like, what advice would you give to a small content creator to keep their motivation going? Also, what's the weirdest game you've come across?
Okay. The first step is to focus on what you're passionate about. So I think sometimes content creators see other content creators and say, I got to do that. And really, you got to find your own style and find your own thing that got you into gaming. Like, don't do it because other people are doing it. Do it because, like, talk about the things you want to talk about. Like, on my own channel, like, for a larger channel, I talk about a lot of classic stuff, and that's because I'm passionate about it. It's not because of views, because you look at those videos, they don't get a ton of views, but it's because I'm motivated to talk about it because I'm passionate about homebrew and aftermarket scene, and I talk about lots, Atari to Xbox, and so, what's the strangest game I've played? Little Red Riding Hood Zombie Barbecue for DS.
yes,
That's pretty.
I love that
strange.
game.
Sounds like
So,
a game.
the other one, would be Pop. I'm gonna get the name mixed up.
Popful Mail?
Popful Mail. I want
Yeah.
to say for
CD.
Sega CD.
It's a good one. Expensive.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Some of that early point and click adventure stuff, and there's a lot of like obscure 8-bit stuff that not a lot of people know about because they didn't grow up with it and it's gone. Like,
Yes.
that's a challenge too. Like, sometimes a challenge, like Nintendo stuff kind of crowds out all the other obscure stuff that came out.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Nintendo makes great stuff, but it's not the only thing that made games, and that's why I kind of pursue some of that other stuff because that's what I'm passionate about. Like, I've
Yeah.
always been a Sega Genesis collector, but I'm not like anti-Nintendo. I'm more balanced of like I collect a little bit of everything.
That didn't sound too
A lot
bad.
of everything. Or a lot of everything.
Yeah. Just wanted to say that Eep was also saying Engage never interested him, but keep trying to change his mind. It's probably not going to happen. Feels like a challenge at this point.
I mean, it's kind of like if you don't like chocolate ice cream, it doesn't matter how many times people
Yeah.
introduce it to you, you're probably not going to like it.
Yeah, but I guess it's a good
Yeah,
segue into the next question we had as far as with the content. Like, what got you specifically into the content creation outside of the passion?
Oh,
Or is that like the only thing?
So I was a teacher, and so I did these. I've been a teacher for a long time, but I also did these DVDs on how to collect video games, nuts and bolts of video game collecting, and I had these early on in early 2000s. And people kept bugging me, you ought to do YouTube, you ought to do YouTube. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do YouTube. And then so what I did is I started my YouTube channel. I took that content on those DVDs, and that was my first videos, which I didn't have a tripod. I was using like a Fuji digital camera for my it's painful to watch, but I kept them up, and it's gotten a little bit better.
It's a start.
But no editing, but I was just showing other people how to collect video games, and so a lot of people said that motivated them. They took that information from those, and then I was on some other channels: Gamester81, Happy Console Gamer, and most notable Metal Jesus Rocks. And so I guessed on his channel, and that grew my channel some bounds to initiate. But then I started doing my own content, my own style, and it's kind of evolved from then into kind of 3 videos a week. I did 3 videos I've done 3 videos for the last, I think, 4 years, all through COVID. I didn't miss a single week. 3 videos.
It's awesome.
And a lot of people said
Yeah.
it really helped them through that time and just kind of get through things. And so I was teaching, and I'm doing this YouTube around a full-time job, and previously two other jobs. So it was crazy. I was teaching college and then a counselor and then doing YouTube.
I guess it helps keep you busy when you're like limited on what you can do like outside your home.
Yeah, and so I enjoyed it. It's my outlet, and that's, for me, it's I have so much to talk about, and I have a list of things I want to talk about, and I like talking about games. There's always something to talk about, and so I have goals and I have checklists of things videos I want to do, and then mix that in, sprinkle that in with new products and other things to discuss.
I definitely really appreciate you going over like the obscure, weird, failed stuff. Like when you talked about the microvision. Me and Brandy are super passionate about like the preservation. We want to do a museum type deal as well. That's kind of our passion with that, is especially the weird stuff, the stuff that doesn't get attention. Like there's the popular obscure stuff, but there's like the really obscure stuff, and that's where it's a whole other level. So I always appreciate you going over that stuff, and I know at tour we got to talk about that in the car a little bit, but I love it, and that's why I do what I do with it, trying to document different things that aren't gone over. So yeah, very much appreciated.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of goes in because this kind of spurs from a comment by Mysticals about it's somewhat easier with the older content to kind of like collect it and put it like in a museum. But what are the thoughts on with the newer game? I guess because we're heading towards that digital only, where the ownership, who owns the game, could be kind of weird, which could also make it harder to preserve the games if certain studios or developers don't necessarily want you to have like full control of it.
I agree. I think that what I want to do in the journey I want to do with my collection is really focus on, because I think preservation is fluid, and I agree with that it's going to be tougher with the newer stuff. And my journey and my focus is really to this collection that I've curated a long time, getting that out of my house and into a public setting. And so I think that is an issue moving forward. I think Switch, thank goodness we still have physical media
for the time being.
But how much of that stuff do you need to be connected online to even get to it? I mean, I'm even frustrated with, if you have like a secondary Switch. I don't know if people know this, but if you have a secondary Switch and you try to leave your house and try to access your games that are digital, you have to have online access.
Yeah.
And it can be really, really frustrating. A lot of people don't know that. I know that some people, Nintendo is God to some people, but I kind of put it more on an even playing field, saying they're no better than anybody else.
Yeah, especially when they still have like stuff on physical media, but sometimes, and it's not just them, it's other consoles you can buy physical media now, but it still requires like you got day one patches because the game wasn't finished when they shipped it.
I think it's just that we're dealing with complexities of modern gaming, make it impossible where something is like, an old game had a bug, but there was one version and they produced it, and that's that. Mm-hmm. And so now it's like, there's 5 bazillion versions of Fortnite, let alone Minecraft, or thinking of like some big games that went through major changes, and who's documenting those changes, and what does that look like? And that's really complex, and that's, I think, going to be a challenge for somebody else. I'm focusing more on
the retro
games that I grew up with, or games that are more physical media, connecting to someone's childhood. That's my journey, and at least what I want to do with a physical location. And so that is a challenge. But I mean, I think preservation needs to be looked at as fluid, and it hopefully game companies, because it comes down to the game companies are to make money. And unfortunately, preservation, if that costs money, they're not going to focus on that, because That's not why they're in the business. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
And so, Sega at one point had all their games, previous libraries stacked on one another. It was like
Wow.
leaning. It was so sad. In a spare room, but like even Microsoft has admitted that like, you know, they're even Nintendo's headquarters up in Seattle, like their museum is a small fraction of how huge and magnificent their history is. They don't have the real estate in the space. Like who has the money for that? And what would be the purpose of it? And I mean, it's really museums are made for passion and love, not to make money.
Exactly.
And that's why you don't see more of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Most people lose money making museums and getting running.
Yeah, they need like donations and stuff.
You need to be connected to a viable business, and that's kind of my angle and my future is looking at that. What a viable business can do with this to help their business out, but still be a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like city support based on where you put it, like the support of that local community, and then just the community as a whole is all impacts having a museum because it's not a moneymaker. I mean, I'm sure that you can make it be a moneymaker, but it's a hard one for sure.
It is maintenance, upkeep, staff
Yeah.
insurance, and all that.
It requires a lot of money.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
you can.
But I guess
And there's so many factors too. You literally have to take everything into play. So it's just, you know, and you have to think of the future of everything and where we're going, and you know, it's
Climate
it's just so
controlled
much.
areas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
because I was thinking about what were you saying?
Audience.
Yeah.
And unfortunately that goes back to the popularity thing, because you can have some great obscure stuff, but if nobody cares, it's not going to be viable.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about like for the kids growing up now with their games, in like 20 years, the option to get physical might just be that much harder, especially with games being more digital. I mean, I guess it could be a pro and a con, because if you could save a final version of a game on a digital, then it would be very easy for everybody to play it. But then you also deal with, you got to deal with copyright laws and ownership laws and stuff like that, which just makes it a whole mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
DRM's it's a tricky one to
Yeah, I agree.
get around and maneuver with the digital age coming. I mean, they've been trying to do that for years now at this point. But Sony with their PSP Go, like they wanted to make things all digital over 10 years ago, but it wasn't working yet. I don't even think now's the time. They're trying now with the digital systems.
I think it's easier now because storage technology's better. You can have smaller stores that hold so much more memory. I think it's trending there, and the technology's slowly getting there.
Convenience is there, and the sales show that 70% of people are buying digital.
Yeah.
But what people aren't thinking about is the long term. Well, what happens when that store goes away? You know, the 3DS, the Wii U. Look at the previous stores Nintendo shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox, PlayStation.
You know,
and then the really the only one that's really been around the longest, Steam.
Yeah.
Steam's been really good about. That's what makes Steam so popular, is once you buy it, it's there.
Yeah.
It's not going away. And I wish the game companies would do console companies would do a better job with that, because the more I play Steam, the more I want those game companies to be like that.
But I guess Steam's got the benefit of the doubt is it's always like a server, it's always on a computer. Like you upgrade your own hardware, but like they have more flexibility. They don't have to like worry about a whole new console, a whole new operating system. You just have to like, does this work with the general 1 or 2 operating systems that come out every 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. I could be wrong on this because my PC knowledge is pretty slim, but doesn't Steam still have DRM, and like Good Old Games is the one that's DRM free?
I'm not sure.
I don't know that. What I do know is Steam is the largest concurrent user in the world for people for games.
Wow.
So part of the big access for Steam, the big reason why Steam is so popular is that you can buy a game and 20 years later it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Steam, you can also get non-Steam games working on Steam. But going back to the Steam Deck, you can even put a new operating system on it. There's lots of things that Valve and Steam are doing that I think are successful. Going back to your DRM question, that might be a person in the comments might be able to answer that for us.
Yeah, GameCube Galaxy was just bringing up here. He said that people who are going digital only clearly aren't thinking long term and will feel the effects later on. Unfortunately, physical over digital any day for me. And then Eep said, for us dirty, faraway Canadians, will there be virtual tours of the museum? I guess just being funny. But...
That's funny. Love Canada and love the gamers up there. Virtual tours. It's like, I think the first step is to get off the ground, and I think looking at remote access to doing tours and stuff is definitely in the process of discussion. There's so many factors of things that I have to figure out with my board, which the nonprofit I formed, the Northwest Video Game Museum, and so we're actually meeting at a physical location this weekend, and hopefully within the year year or two we'll discuss and announce where that is once finalized. So it's just it's a long process. There's so many factors to figure out. We're at the beginning phase, but we are moving forward. So talking about virtual tours, I would say, yeah, it sounds great. We're like 300 steps before that, but I would love to do that.
Sounds awesome. Mark, you want to dive into the news? We got a good chunk of news.
Yeah, I gotta get some of the stuff that you brought up. That I don't know if we've talked about some of this. It seems like it's a lot of new stuff because there's been a lot of new talk, especially with that CES going on. But got up first was the Atari's My Arcade's new system, the Atari Micro Arcade Cabinet, Atari Pocket Player, and Game Station Plus. Game Station Plus will also include the arcade 2600, 7800 games, and a collection.
Arcade.
Yeah, arcade. Yep.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing with some people. Not just 2600, not just another flashback.
It's like everything is included all.
Well, not including 8-bit, 5200, Atari ST, or Jaguar, and that is the con is that
it's the unfortunate
that's
part.
A lot of Atari's history, especially non-American. So like Atari ST sold 2 million, and so not having any of that on any collections, those people that collect that computer, even 8-bit, like 8-bit was huge and was around a long time. If you're post Nintendo collector, you don't know a lot about that, but being a long-time collector here, Atari 8-bit's huge, and not having that on any collections is frustrating. But let's look at why. Atari 2600 sold 30 million, and so that's almost on par with the original NES, and so that's why you see it on collection after collection after collection. But those games are kind of old. I think someone in the comments on my YouTube channel said, "Oh, I'm not into Old Testament gaming." It was so funny. It was a funny comment.
That is a funny comment.
We got like 13 flashbacks at this point.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Another one.
So, anyways, I didn't mean to talk, but I did a pro and con short on my channel talking about why I like it, and I think it's cool. But there's also the con of like the SD card, the Wi-Fi. There's 200 licensed games, but they're a lot of the same games that have been available elsewhere and previous.
Yeah, no 8-bit computer, no 5200 ST. Not even in the 50th anniversary collection is a bummer. There was
5200 there was 5200 in there.
I meant ST, no ST in there. Yeah,
no ST. Yes, correct. Yes.
Yeah, so it was really cool to finally see something for the Jaguar and Lynx. Like I bought it just for that. Like the other stuff, I've got a million ways to play, but yeah, it is a little bit of a bummer not to see a little bit more of Atari's history.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to say this, I thought it was funny. Eep commented, in the beginning, there was Pong. It's like, yes, I know it wasn't the first, but it's still a funny comment.
Love it.
Definitely. We had something from PlayStation. They announced their new accessibility controller, including Project Leonard for PS5. It's essentially a highly customizable, I can't read or speak, controller essentially for people with disabilities. And obviously it's one of those few things where Xbox was kind of like, say, hey, that's pretty good thing. Because it doesn't probably affect the vast majority, but there's a small subset of gamers who have trouble with the standard controllers. So I have seen they get really creative and they can still work it, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But it's
love
really
They
neat
did
that
that.
they're
Yeah, and getting the praise from Xbox, like they've been very supportive. I mean, at least what we see, supported for other companies. So
Absolutely.
pretty
I
cool
think
to
that's
see.
great. Working with a population of people with disabilities for a long time, and did a gaming expo for kids with disabilities. Just think more and more companies that they're offering ways that people can game, around their disabilities, and I just think that's awesome. So
definitely.
that's off to all the people involved with those projects, and I know there's probably ones for PC and elsewhere, but that's awesome.
No, yeah,
Yeah, I
definitely.
love it.
We have another thing. I know me and Brandon just recorded something last night. We got another video coming out sometime this week. But Razer Edge announced that on January 26th they're dropping their. I guess it's called the Razer Edge. I misread. They're dropping the Razer Edge on January 26th. They got the Wi-Fi only version at 400, and then the 5G version with the Verizon is 600. It's on a 6.8-inch OLED display, 144 hertz for those that matter. And pretty much, there's some more specs that we got noted here, but essentially seems like they're trying to like compete against Steam Deck to some
Steam
degree.
Deck.
I know we
So
could. No,
I have a question about it. So I don't know a lot about this. Two things: is this like a dedicated handheld, or is this like a phone with an accessory that makes it like a Steam Deck?
from what we were reading, it seemed like
Both.
it's kind of both, but it's kind of like it's its own dedicated thing.
Yeah.
Instead of attaching to a phone that's got their own little monitor that they've got the controllers
Yeah.
that kind of attached to.
Okay.
Yeah,
I want the
dedicated.
PC version.
Yeah, it's a dedicated device, but it's essentially is a phone that you're getting that's
Okay.
dedicated phone. So it looks cool. I get why they're doing it. Price points around Steam Deck. I mean, I can't imagine most people want the Wi-Fi only model, but who knows? I don't know.
The only
But-
I thought the only drawback is if you get the better one, you're dropping almost $1,000 with the 36 months of data that you have to buy on the higher end one. And it's just kind of like at that point, it's like I might as well just buy. I feel like I would buy the Steam Deck because I know for sure what I'm getting out of this with the Steam, and it just feels like they're just they're trying to tap into a market that's definitely kind of cornered. And then I myself am skeptical about it, but I guess we'll see in due time.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it. It's not for me, for sure. And
I would need
you'll-
to know way more about it before, I
Yeah.
jumped aboard anything.
I love my Steam Deck, and even I'm not a big like PC guy. As a content creator, having a dedicated device to capture, it's really easy, and I have been playing a lot more independent games with it. But yeah, I think it sounds smart. They're essentially taking a phone and making it a competitor to Steam Deck. Doesn't seem like they're out a bunch. I'm definitely would be a guy that would be marketing towards the Wi-Fi option, just because I'm old and more conservative with my money now. I'm not impulsive and young like I used to, and blow all my paycheck on leather jackets and dates and all that stuff. And so I'm like, data plan. I've put my father hat on and be like, that's blah 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 per month. I'm like,
Yeah.
Are you really gonna spend that? And so yeah. But if I was young, then yeah, I'd definitely be blowing my money on that.
And I'm like, if I'm gonna play them and I'm gonna be at home playing it more often than not, I'm like, am I gonna really be out that often where I really need the data?
Yeah, it's not for me. The whole plan deal with it. That's what they want you to do that because it's actually cheaper to get it that way. It's like $360 or something, but in the long run, when you're paying all the monthly bills for the service for it, it's really not. So for people that don't put their thinking hat on, they're going to think it's cheaper and grab it, and actually, sorry guys, but it's really not. It's cheaper right now, but that's it. So
Yeah.
yeah, on that one, that's probably a pass for me. But
I was gonna say, plus I've got my Switch that I hardly ever play in handheld mode anyway, so I just can't see bothering to spend the money if I'm not. I got the Switch that is mainly docked, that's designed to be
Yeah.
picked up and played, and I hardly use it, so.
looks like some comments here. We got Josh is saying always pro gamer, not disability. It's a new ability. I love all the ways people play games. Support any company that does that. Absolutely. Eep says happy beard games. I wonder if anyone is going to bring up the awkward fact that John reminds people of Al from Home Improvement. I would never bring it up. Nope, never. Not me.
Yeah. Get that all
Hey.
the time. That's
That's the first thing I thought. There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah. No, I mean, Al Bundy. I used to sell shoes too, so I mean that was like, oh yeah. Or what's Talladega Nights?
Ricky Bobby.
Yeah, shake and bake, baby. I get that all that time. Hey, you might, you sound like Wreck-It Ralph. I get all that, but that's great. Hey, I'm remembered somehow, right? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Exactly. Eep says, now you can blow all your money on your wife and kids. Retro Tiburon says, what up, the immortal John Hancock? You've got Retro Wildlands. Howdy, y'all. Hello, John. I'm still starstruck from meeting you at Torque. Happy to see you on the show. Trace says, shake and bake, baby. We appreciate all the comments, guys. Trying to keep up with
Yeah,
them.
thank you. Great
Definitely.
meeting everybody at Torque. It was a great show, and I just had a great time just talking to people, down to earth. Good event, and just wish nothing but the success moving forward. So it was just a great time. And it was great if you came up and talked, or we talked games, or saw any of my stuff on my channel. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Definitely. We got something else. I don't know if this is going to affect a lot of people, but the Pokemon anime received the return of Brock and Misty for Ash's final episode. For those that remember back in like the late 90s, early 2000s. I know I was a kid when that happened.
I think it's cool.
Yeah,
think
it's
it's
a little
cool.
neat little thing. Less gaming, a little bit more pop culture on that one.
I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but I've talked about it on my channel. Just I sold Pokemon cards at GameStop when it came out in the States. But I'm happy for fans. That's a big deal when you bring characters back or something. That's it's nostalgia. That's connection, and I'm happy for people.
Seems like you're like on the opposite side of that whole Pokemon craze, the early 2000s.
Yeah. So I could say why, and so I worked with kids that were in group homes that were using them to prey upon younger kids. Pokemon cards.
Oh,
So
okay.
early on,
Yeah,
I hated
not
Pokemon
good.
cards. So, but then like Pokemon, I'm 46, so I kind of missed the Pokemon craze,
Yeah.
and so like that's a little bit after my generation. But like, I have no problems with it now. The Pokemon Arceus on Switch, I totally want to play that. I totally don't have time.
Great
to play it.
game.
And
It's
so,
one
like,
of my
of the
favorite.
new ones, I wanted the people say if you're gonna play a Pokemon game, I'm not like anti-Pokemon, but for the longest time, I had like a stigma with Pokemon cards and stuff. So that I did play Magic though, which is essentially Pokemon. So it's like, but I definitely not my thing. I'm a little bit older for that. 46, being 46, so it's that
Yeah.
boat a little bit, but I know people are really into it.
Definitely. Hopefully Brian will get his camera back on soon enough. We miss you, Brian.
Yeah, I'm trying to do. I have to swap out the. I have to keep swapping out. I think it's my USB drive. I apologize.
No, it's
Working
fine.
on it now.
Things happen, and you can't control it. It's a life grenade, is what I call it, and you have to navigate it.
Yeah.
Technology for you.
It's always a
Technology
struggle.
grenade.
We got the Nescape is up for pre-order on Xbox and Switch. It is a 8-bit NES-style game that gives you 60 minutes to solve a variety of brain teasers and puzzles. Launches on January 13th, which is next week someday. And also is a is a release from Con Gaming's an 8-bit legit. We have incoming
Con
review
Gaming.
for this. Yeah,
On gaming. I've worked with the developer before.
that's good.
Yes, yes, and so I played the NES when he launched the NES version. Great game, very
Nice.
cool. like escape rooms or done any of the like. It's like an escape room in 8-bit format. So if
Sounds
that's
neat.
your thing, check it out.
We'll be doing a review of that on our channel too. We should have that out in the next week or so. So I'm looking forward to
That's
that.
good.
Yeah, I remember Brandon
Yeah,
talking
K1
about that.
Gaming, worked with him before, and just a
Good people. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. You have any thoughts on that, Brandy?
I think it sounds like a great time. I definitely think I'll try it.
I guess I'll have to give it a wing, even though retro's like not my biggest thing. I can't be like the only person out that says, no, I didn't play it.
It comes out on the 19th. I'll say that it's on Switch and Xbox. So
On the 19th or the 13th? Because you wrote down the 13th.
I think it might be the 13th. I apologize. It's here the 13th or the 19th. Was quick on putting up notes, but it's coming out real soon.
yeah.
So
Within the next
Real
2 weeks or
soon.
so.
yeah, so we'll have a review out on that. Definitely want to support those guys. 8-bit legit, great people. I've known them for a while, so
Yeah.
keep your eyes peeled for that one.
Also put down some stuff. Sam Barlow was finally able to speak about the canceled Legacy of Kain Dead Son game, which I've never even heard of. Now that his NDA expired, there was a quote. I think throughout this, from day one, the bosses won a God of War, Assassin's Creed, Uncharted, but we Climax weren't given a budget allowed to allow anything close. I don't know if you all have heard about that game.
I didn't, but the Legacy Kane series, I've played 4 more games, and one thing that just being in around a long time is sometimes game ideas can go through development hell, and you get a budget or lack of budget or misunderstanding. I think of like LucasArts. I know Game Informer talked about some of the terrible mismanagement discussions that happened with Star Wars games that got canned, but that's just a drop in the bucket. But like, so many things can happen in a game's journey now, especially modern gaming. Poor management, company wants this, programmer wants that, fighting, budgetary restraints, or there's so many things that can happen that can make it just terrible and everybody lose. So it's sad to hear, but I'm glad that someone connected to the game was able to discuss it and share their misery or just their side of it.
I wish that we would get like a new Legacy of Kain game. I really love those games. I've had a lot of fun with them. It's kind of a bummer that they haven't done anything with it. One that really bothers me, Scalebound. I don't know if you guys remember about that game that got canceled for the 360. Yeah, that game looked incredible. And I mean, people still rave about what was put out about it now. Like it looked great. A lot of canceled games all the time. So ones that we may never even know about. So
yeah, I can't remember what YouTuber. I think it was a YouTuber. Some video I was watching a few years ago talking about how I think it was a topic as far as like development hell with games in general, and some along the lines of it's like amazing that a single game can even come out with like all the issues and how long all the issues just that can and do pop up in development. It's amazing that games come out at all.
Yeah, it's amazing that we ever got Duke Nukem Forever. I had it on pre-order for almost 10 years.
I think that's the most infamous version of development hell for a game.
Horrible.
Speaking of development hell, you also got to mention about indie companies and how a lot of these programmers are like 1 or 2, 3 people bands, and that some of them are like mortgaging their house to like just make ends meet, and all the competition and how hundreds of games of indie people release these and they don't make a red cent, and they just get lost in the shuffle with the releases that come out every day now.
Yeah.
Then even thinking like on like a psychological note, like I know a big thing in the news was always with Mortal Kombat, how they have to get that so realistic, the amount of stuff that they have to watch and actually like essentially research, because that stuff has to be exact. Like you have to have those bodies and everything look like that, and people were coming out and saying that they had nightmares, and it really impacted them. And you just have to think of that too, like when you're essentially all in, so like everything that you're making, like it kind of has to be to a certain standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause I think
I mean, they expect the new fatalities every Mortal Kombat game. They get more and more brutal every time.
They kind of have to at this
Wild,
point.
wild stuff.
Because I think I was also watching one of the internet historian's video on No Man's Sky, and he kind of goes into the in-depth with the research. And I think he came out and talked. The actual head developer talked about it in some interviews about like the whole process with smaller indie games leading up to No Man's Sky, and that whole process of a small studio trying to maybe biting off more than they can chew, and just all the struggles.
Oh yeah.
I can only imagine, especially with a game like that. I mean, yeah.
It's nice to see they finally, like, they had some hate when they came out because Sony was promoting them as a AAA title, and it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it really was like AAA indie title was being promoted as a full-blown Sony release, and to see them climb that mountain and have 17 free updates, and it's killing it now. And I just recently played it, and if you haven't played No Man's Sky in a while and you wanted it to be better, it's better now. It's not perfect, but holy cow, done such a good job at making that a more enjoyable experience.
I've definitely dabbled. It seems like it's a really long tutorial if you're like doing it in chunks, but definitely there's a lot more I could tell just from the first going back playing it for 6 hours than the last 6 hours I played when it came out. It was super bare bones.
Yeah, completely different. I did want to bring up, because we reported on it this week, same deal with Fallout 76. People were raving about it now after all these updates. Like, it's getting like people talking about it with it being on PlayStation Plus. It's a free game this month. They're saying it's an entirely different game. It's like a Fallout 5. So I want to check that one out to give it a go. I'm not big on the Fallout, but yeah, it's on PS Plus this month.
Right.
And it's got all the updates on it and DLC. So
talk about a game that got a lot of hate, and rightfully so, with how that game came out from an actual AAA developer and all the issues that came with it.
Yeah, people are raving about it though. I'm seeing people that tried it when it came out saying it's an entirely different game. So I'm interested in checking it out.
Upgrade my hard drive and actually install it now.
Oh, there you go. we got a video from Fallout 76 coming from John Hancock this month. Yeah, it seems like it's a different game. I looked into it a little bit, so pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we got another announcement. I think we heard about this at the Game Awards, but I guess this is a little bit more deeper with the Cyberpunk's first major expansion, Phantom Liberty. It's only going to be on PS5, the new Xbox Series, and on PC. I assume they probably realize older consoles are just can't handle what they want to do.
I think that's a good decision.
Sure.
You're kind of at that point where you have to focus on what's out now. They've been out long enough. You got to like transition away from last gen if you really want to like use all the current modern hardware to its full potential.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's like Steam. If you had a game, like Steam would just say your hardware requirements need to be this. So it's no different than that. It's just when you have a dedicated hardware, you kind of want that to play our games. But after 10 years or 8 years or that Xbox One hardware and PS4 is old.
Yeah.
And it's hard on a developer to have to program two different types of architecture, PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. At some point, having them focus, and that's why Nintendo went all in on a Switch versus a handheld and a console, is it frees up time where a developer can make a better game for one platform versus trying to split it with both. I mean, Cyberpunk was such a mess on previous gen when it came out, especially PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I think games eventually will have to do that. And with any transition, it's tough, and people are going to be rightfully upset. But that's just the nature of things. And
But I even played it on PC, and it was at least playable on PC. But that game was, even for like high-end PCs, which is what it played best on, it still had so many. That game had issues, even without the last gen. Probably ate up a lot of resources. But I was like, yeah, this is y'all made a mess. Good luck.
Upside down cars and like. Oh my gosh, there's so many bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play it on a previous gen. I got it the day that it came out. This is one of the few games I bought like on day one. I'm usually waiting to get it on a sale guide because I'd probably gotten like 30 games the past few months. I have not gotten even touch, and you guys can all relate to that, but Even with the PS5, I saw cars floating above me, going through the walls, people coming inside my car while I'm sitting there, like just all kinds of wild stuff. So it was a mess. It seems like it's getting better. I would still say it's kind of a bummer that they canceled that multiplayer. It seemed like something a little bit different and a little bit unique. And
I think they had
I
to.
I think they had to.
So many issues with the game they had to fix, and then they have to get on the DLC eventually. It was just a waste of time at this point. So I think we got oh no, keep going.
I was just also going to say, like, the time crunch that these employees get for these games too. I guess it's not just the employees, higher ups that are saying you got to get it out on this date now. And give the time for that game. I mean, these people are. I hear about some of these people working 16, 18-hour days. Our buddy, mutual buddy Jay Malone, he worked at EA, and so he got to experience a little bit of that, and it's crazy. It's overboard with some of that stuff, and
it's getting better though, because some are unionizing now, and some of that.
Yeah,
I
saw that
you're gonna have more. Hopefully fair hours, and unions don't fix everything, but if anything, that's a voice for some people out there that are able to join a union, and hopefully the crunch time will be balanced and at least agreed upon with the employees.
Yeah, because I did see something about Microsoft recognizing Bethesda's QA tester union. I think it was specifically the QA testers wanted to join a union, and Microsoft says, yeah, sure, whatever. We'll recognize you. So it's like, regardless of people's views on unions, it's a step in the right direction, because at least how they're working now it just seems unbearable, like unsustainable.
Yeah, not healthy.
Yeah,
it's not healthy for anybody.
And I don't really want to support something that's gonna be like that miserable for everyone. I'd rather just wait the time. Let it fix everything. We can all wait. And now, people can't really get mad. There are new gaming systems coming out.
Yeah.
They're in stores. I see them all the time. So it's like, at some point, you do have to kind of just, move forward, like you guys were saying. And people shouldn't be mad because there are, new systems. I see them in my stores every day.
People are mad at every time a new system comes out and their old system gets discontinued. It's been happening.
Every time.
It's inevitable.
It's been happening since the 2600 got discontinued.
Exactly.
When the Super Nintendo came out and didn't play Nintendo cartridges. Oh, Mom.
My grandma got furious about the Super Nintendo not playing NES games. Furious.
But yeah, it's definitely, at some point you have to choose. Okay, I'm just gonna stick with this system, or if I want to play the new games, I got to get the new console, and that's a tough decision. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree that if you want to play current games, you got to eventually jump in.
Yeah.
Let me throw this one at you. Do people out there complain when you get a brand new cell phone that you actually need? Or are people less, are they less argumentative if they need to get a new cell phone? It's like the same thing. People don't bat an eye when they need to get a brand new cell phone, but a brand new gaming system, they bat an eye. And your cell phones are like so many more times more expensive, but people tend to flip these around real quick.
I think it's because the price, with a console, you have to front the cost all up front. With the games.
Making
cell phone,
payments.
You kind of making payments over like 2 or 3 years, so you can kind of eat the cost a little bit more. But it's the same thing. People like, oh, iPhones are terrible or Androids are terrible, and people just hate on you for that as well.
Yeah, everyone just hates everywhere.
True, that's true. Everybody, we live right now where everybody will just pick something to troll or to counter. The other thing too is I know Xbox had some plans for a while, at least, that you could do increment payments like cell phones. So there's even that.
They did.
You can even go into
program.
GameStop and make monthly payments if you want to go that route. They even have like a trade-in system where you can trade your old console in for your new one.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that they did that. I thought that was pretty cool. They definitely are trying to make it easier for people to just upgrade into their new ecosystem. I'm a big Xbox fan. I'll just rightfully say that's the system that I game on for modern consoles and multimedia the most. But every console has its pros and cons. So
I try to not favoritize the system. I just kind of try to uniquely play all of them. I typically want to play like the exclusives. If it's like An indie game, it's usually like on the Switch. Xbox is all Game Pass for the most part for me. Yeah, I don't favorite the systems.
I don't favor it. That's a choice for my family
Yeah.
and stuff. Choosing Xbox.
Right.
I play the PS5 out of the Switch. It's just when I like a multimedia system. I think for me
That makes
Xbox,
sense. Yeah,
Xbox has done a pretty good job with that.
absolutely.
Hey, Brandon.
It looks like we got some. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was about to make a mention about the comments. I think you were.
Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
No, I just didn't know if you wanted to go back. 'Cause I know we got a bunch who were talking for a second,
Oh,
so we got
yeah.
to go back.
There's a lot more. Yeah, so we'll see. Carl says Fallout 76 is a lot better now. We've got How to Game Differently. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, so many bugs, talking about the issues with all the in-game issues with Cyberpunk. Says, I really enjoyed Scarlet, but it just takes me away from the immersion when I see Under the Floor. And yeah, me and Mark were just talking about that. I'm still enraged that the Switch killed the 3DS and Wii U. I honestly like both of those. I am old. I hate when I have to get a new phone. I typically don't complain about a new system. I can still use my old systems. And then Retro Wildland says, my PSP still works just fine, and I can watch movies like Speed and Super Troopers on it.
Nice.
2 classic movies.
Love those GMD movies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but it works.
If
Hey,
it works,
it
it
Wait,
works.
worry about PSP. So I went to a hotel on the beach, and real quick, I didn't have a DVD player or anything, but I brought my PSP, and I actually brought some movies with me. And using the component cables, was able
Yes.
to plug it into the
used
TV,
to
and
do
that's
that
what we
too.
watched with my family. I watched Short Circuit, which we were on Astoria, which some of it was filmed there, and my kids never saw Short Circuit, and so I thought that was pretty funny.
I did that when I was a kid with the cables. Yeah. Looks terrible, but
It's pretty hokey setup, but it works.
Yeah.
love it.
You have a story to tell about it.
Oh yeah.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. The memories that you made. You'll never forget that one moment.
Makes it all
For Five
worth it.
Alive.
Retro says he still takes his PSP on flights when I travel for work. John knows what's up. That's right.
Yeah, right. I think we still had one more article that you put down. Apparently, limited run games. I haven't heard this until now. Is in hot water over employee termination. Reportedly fired an employee for following 2 questionable Twitter accounts. There's been no statements or actions so far.
This just happened yesterday. We talked about it last night when we were filming. It was about the somebody came out and put about a woke thing with it. I don't know all the details.
Yeah, I don't
But-
know anything.
But yeah, apparently it's all over Twitter right now. I saw a few news articles earlier. Game Insider covered it. I don't know what the questionable Twitter accounts were, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
yeah.
Who
No,
knows?
so this was an employee with a questionable account, and so they got
They
got
follow.
fired
They,
because of
it
their-
sounds like they followed 2 questionable accounts, and so they
Like
fired whoever.
political based accounts. Yeah, it was something was like a radical. God, I don't even like to get into politics stuff, so I don't know. One of them was like a radical left wing account or something, or right winged account. I think. I want to say it was like Andrew Tate or somebody like that, but I didn't even put that in the question.
Yeah, I
so
don't
I'm
know.
not
I
sure.
don't. I'd have to pull up the.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to wait and see what everyone or what actually is said.
Yes.
Here's-
For
Say.
sure.
Need to know the facts type of thing.
Yeah, there's sides, and then there's the facts, and then there's the law.
Lies
No,
and the
what-
truth.
Yeah, and so that's sometimes tough when news article comes out because it has a perspective, and then
Always.
Yeah.
it's like it's not all the facts were given, because I know that many of us have talked to newspapers before, and I know I've been in the newspaper before, and the article that they say about an event doesn't match what the event was, or they missed something, and news is online is no different. You get
Right.
you get a snippet, and then it's not the whole perspective. But anyways, I don't have a dog in a fight on this one. I have no idea.
Yeah.
It's a whole muddy water to even like tip your toes in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
We got a few more topics that Brandon put down for us. So, John, do you have any thoughts on the PSVR 2? Apparently, they had some demo stations available at CES.
Consumer Electronics Show. Yep.
Yeah, I remember eventually.
That's all right. It's been around a long time, and so I've had perspectives about PSVR, and it's kind of evolved a little bit. So I predicted that the PSVR was going to be challenged because of its high cost and attachment rate, and now fast forward to 2022, less than 5% of PlayStation 4 owners had a PSVR. So that right there says there's a market there, but the market is fairly small. Now Sony, I think, is being smart by moving forward with the PSVR 2. Now, I have issues with them not having it backwards compatible, but I think it was really smart because they're launching it fairly soon. I did ask for one, and I got it for my main Christmas gift. Part of it is for content creation and talk about on my channel, but I'm curious about VR. Now, I have an Oculus Quest 2. I don't have a high-end VR unit. This is going to be my kind of higher-end VR unit because I have a PlayStation 5. Demo, just from what I saw, now it's one thing to see it on a flat screen, another thing to experience it. Looks interesting, and I think that it's going to be an uphill road with them continuing that attach rate because of the cost. The cost, it's like $550 on top of a PlayStation 5. I think it's a niche market, but I think that niche market is going to consume it, and hopefully it can be successful for them. But my big thing is like PlayStation VR, Oculus Quest 2, that's like, to me, it's like a cross between PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 graphics. Like, I don't feel fully immersed. I think if they can take that to the next level, that's going to be some crazy, awesome experiences. I think that it's a perspective of gaming. It's not where gaming is directionally, like, exactly going. But at least Sony's doing something about it versus Microsoft that had a cool AR unit that decided not to release it because of development costs. They actually took that unit. Metal Jesus Rocks did a video on what they were going to do, and they decided to move in a different direction with that, like home development and stuff. But it's still around, but it's not in gaming. But anyways, I think part of the future, it is the future of gaming eventually, where we're gonna not get off gaming off a screen, and I think that's going to look at many different things. But I think it's going to be very challenging with the PlayStation VR 2 not being backwards compatible in that high price. But I'm at least going to check it out. It's one of the few things that I'm spending that much money on to experience when it first comes out. But
just really
I'd want to grab it too, mostly for the content stuff. But I'm actually looking forward to it. I didn't grab a VR one. I played it several times. I wasn't overly impressed with it, but there was a few games that I enjoyed with it. But it was, graphics weren't great. Tried the Meta Quest 2.
You got to play the right games. You got to play the right games on it though to be like. Have you played Squadrons on it?
No, I played Moss, which I really enjoyed. But I've not tried Squadrons.
Squadrons, like, playing the right games will definitely, like, you can see the potential. But like the varying in quality on PSVR games, because a lot of them honestly were like could have been better. Yeah. Because of the limitations of technology. But I don't mean to interrupt, but like
you're good.
It's a challenge sometimes because the quality varied from game to game and it wasn't consistent.
Yeah. I tried to do a few that I really enjoyed, like you said, Moss and Book 2 were really fun. I'm excited about it. I think it'll be cool, but I think it might be harder with the VR 2. It much higher price point. After tax, you're at like $600, and you got to have the PS5. You're looking at like $1,100. It's a lot, so I think it'd be cool though.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on it, Brady?
Yeah, I definitely want it. I have the first one. Now, I didn't play it a whole lot, but I did play. At least I enjoyed the games that I did play. So I'm excited to see what they learned from and like where they're gonna move with it. So I don't want to miss out on that. I think that will be something that I get, as I just got my PS5, for the holidays. So I'm looking forward to it.
Already hyped. Just goes to show how far ahead Nintendo was on the ball in VR. Like 20 years too early.
Yeah, well, they weren't the first though. There were many systems.
Famicom had the 3D glasses.
I guess they're the most
Yeah.
well known at this point that people remember, that I remember.
Yeah. Hey,
You
listen,
know,
the Virtual Boy is virtual reality.
So I guess the question is Nintendo going to give us a chance at VR when their next console, I would assume, is a successor to the Switch? I think there's a shot they'll even dabble with VR, or nah?
I think they have the sky's the limit what Nintendo's going to try. They themselves have expressed they're worried about after the ecosystem of Switch. So I think beyond Switch 2, they're kind of point. What do we do next?
Because they've kind of funneled their console and handhelds into like one, so it feels like they're gonna have to continue that, or they're gonna have to eventually branch them back. But yeah,
I guess we won't know until.
yeah, another 10, 20 years, I guess we'll find out.
I think they'll just keep doing what they're doing as long as it's selling. I think that right now they're dealing with hardware limitations, so Switch 2 is imminent. It has to be backwards compatible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has to be backwards compatible, but who knows?
Yeah.
You should keep the eShop store, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, it's just one of those things. Like I've kind of cycled through a couple ecosystems now, and I'm kind of tired of that. So like for me, I don't know. Like I said, whatever they do is probably going to be successful. I was actually a skeptic when the Switch came out, just because the Wii U is a dismal failure.
Yeah.
And even to this day, like the Switch control, the Joy-Cons, I really don't like them. And it's funny that you say you play docked specifically. Me too.
Yeah.
Which
The Joy-Cons
Switch
just
Pro
aren't.
controller,
I think.
Switch Pro controller, big screen.
Yeah, I think they need to like get more ergonomical with the handheld, and I also think with the sequel, the dock itself needs to be more than just a dock. I think if you're worried about buffing it up, at least in docked mode, you could have something that actually maybe pumps up performance.
Some actual hardware. Yeah,
would
yeah,
probably
I
help.
agree with you.
I think most
They're big
people.
on they're big on not losing money on hardware though, so that's what's smart about them is. PlayStation and Xbox. I know PlayStation for sure is losing money on hardware sales.
A lot of
every
people,
hardware they lose money, and so Nintendo's big on being at least profit neutral or gaining profit per console.
I don't think it'd be that hard. I mean, I assume they're gonna use a lot of what's already in the Switch, just some upgrades to that, and then just a little bit more juice, even if it's an extra $50 worth of hardware to give a little bit more oomph when it's in docked mode. But
I agree.
I think they need to take advantage of the DLSS stuff. I think that AI stuff is the way to go, especially for them. I feel like it's the way of the future. They were talking about that last year. There was like rumors going around when they were talking about, they've been talking about the Switch Pro from launch, but I think that's the way to go. I like Mark's idea on that, but that's just me.
it's just an idea of somebody who doesn't know anything about console development.
But I think part of it too is like look at their audience. Does the majority of their audience care? Do they just want something to play Nintendo games? Because like, I guarantee that half the audience that buys Nintendo Switch stuff
Buys it for Nintendo games.
just want to buy it. Oh, has it got Mario and Pokemon?
That's
and
why I buy it
Zelda
for.
on it. Okay.
I've got a gaming PC. I've got a PS5 for like all my main games, and I my Switch. I really only play Nintendo games on. So
Yeah.
The first party stuff is their bread and butter.
yeah,
I want to see from Super Mario 3D World, what was it, Bowser's Fury? I want to see a full open world Mario game, like fleshed out, and I think they can do that with the Switch successor. I want to see that. I've been saying that.
The challenge with them is that like the last Mario Odyssey was like a 4-year development cycle, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So same with Zelda, the new Zelda coming out, Tears of the Kingdom.
yeah.
Did I say it right? Okay. And so like them juggling hardware and making games for their console, like they're stretched thin. That's why they combined the 3DS with the Switch. And made it just console and handheld. But I think they're going to be fine. I think just 10 years from now, that's the question of like what's next. And their whole business cycle too is pretty interesting. So of how decisions come up and who gets to move forward with their ideas, and that Japanese business culture is very different than our American business culture.
Yeah, just adds a
for
You just
layer.
sure.
never know. You never know where we'll be in 10 years. Did anyone ever think that we'd all be going digital? Did anyone think that this stuff would even advance this far? I mean, it's just a lot can happen in 10 years.
Yeah.
So that's a
Another
little
company could come around.
exactly. What if someone else comes in and takes over? I mean, you never know.
That's what Sony did. Sony came out of nowhere and knocked Sega off. And they just like dominated. The thing is with Sony consoles, love them or hate them, every console for the most part has been successful.
Yeah, it's
They
like,
haven't had a Wii U. They haven't had a Wii U really.
I think like every
Vita.
console they put out has been like the most successful console that generation. Because I think the PS3 even ended up outselling the Xbox, which if you lived through that, you wouldn't have thought that. But it's they do well with their console sales.
Except Vita.
Vita.
It's a handheld.
Vita still was a success. I mean, it just wasn't a great success. I mean, it was
Yeah.
still supported several years.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a Virtual Boy or a Wii U.
Right.
But I can see where it struggled against Nintendo's handhelds, which just had such a
Oh
dominant
yeah, for sure.
hold on that
They just
market.
gave up. They gave up early on. If it wasn't for like limited run and companies like that, it wouldn't have.
Yeah, if they probably
Been
stuck with
supported.
it. I think it might have gotten off the ground at least to be some successfully. But yeah, it's
Right.
Sony.
John, I got a question for you. So, how do you see the price of retro gaming in 2023? What do you think is going to happen as far as 2020 prices? What we're at right now here in January? Are you seeing up? Are you seeing a down?
Oh, speculation questions, my favorite. People ask me a lot, because I've been doing it a long time. I see things go up and down, and the vanilla answer is you're always going to see some game trends go down and other things pick up. As time goes on, younger people now that have disposable income, our employment rate is pretty good in our nation. It's like what unemployment's like 3 or 4%. But most people have some form of income. Even with inflation and everything, I think that we're going to see more disc-based stuff gain value as people want to go back, and even like 360 is considered old now, which is crazy.
Yeah.
For sure.
These youngins don't know the struggles I had. No, but seriously, in all seriousness, more and more people like, yeah, I remember growing up retro. I played the Wii, and think about this: a few years, it's going to be 20 years old. That's a trip.
That's
So
what's
we're
going
all
on.
That's
getting
insane.
Mind blown.
We're all getting old. This is
Yeah. So even PS2, has gone up in price quite a bit. Even PS3 recently, some games have really skyrocketed. I continue to see those disc-based games of popularity, especially ones that haven't been redone. Probably keep their value. I mean, even going to Torg, there was a lot of disc-based stuff, and it was selling. It wasn't sitting. It was people were asking for it, and vendors had it, and GameCube, because of Nintendo, but that's widely popular and collectible, and I don't see that going anywhere. So, do I see some big cliff where stuff's gonna fall off? No. I think the challenge is as time moves forward. My son is a good example. My son doesn't grow up with retro. He grew up with a phone.
Yeah.
What happens when those people grow up and their main stuff that they played, you can still play on current stuff? They're
Yeah.
really going to care about getting an old device or
No.
physical media when they didn't grow up with it? That's my question: is the market going to significantly shrink, or looking at it because I'm old, 46, and so a lot of people my age and older are now downsizing and getting rid of their stuff and moving
Yeah,
on.
they are.
And so when the majority of people start doing that, that's going to be a lot of product on the market and a lot of stuff that maybe people don't want. So only the diehards are going to stay in, and and if there's less stores promoting it, can stores keep alive if physical media is being less and less moving forward? Some stores aren't going to last. It's only
Right.
the ones that can evolve, and I see a lot of stores now including plushies and records and
Yes.
cultures and cards to stay alive. That's survival. or online content, or having a YouTube channel connected to your store to bring in revenue. All that is important, and so like I don't think it's going to crash or per se, but I think it's going to be pretty solid through 2023.
Yeah, pretty much have to find a way. As you see it somewhat with GameStop, even though it's controversial to say because it's the only game store I've got available. They have to like
I've got
have
it,
they have to have
Oh,
other
yeah.
content because the games are just they're not going to sell and keep you afloat. So you have to like kind of morph into like a pop culture in general.
Them
Try to get
Funko
people in.
Pops.
Yeah, it's like a whole
So
shelf.
here's a question: how many of the 4,000 games on the Switch? That might be enough retro of those 4,000 games for a lot of people, and moving forward because more modern consoles are offering more retro options.
Yep.
How does that impact the retro gaming community? More and more people just decide I'll just deal with what I can get on my current platform.
And
not
there's
have to
enough
put people-
games there that you can't even play all of those, so it's
But I mean, I
Yeah.
guess if that's what you can afford, because some people just don't have the money with the price hikes right now. It's like, well, I'll take what I can get because I just can't afford to buy this
Yeah.
old console that's just too expensive for me.
And the space. People, I talk to people at work and stuff all the time, and they're always like, I just don't have the space to put a bookshelf. But like, there's people who aren't like us, who are crazy and take over all these rooms in their house, morphing into garages, basements, bathrooms, everywhere you can, and can't put games. But some
Yeah.
people, they don't want that
Correct.
space, that clutter, that,
Yeah.
Awesomeness.
I love it.
That awesomeness.
Another bathroom. Just
some
put
people-
games in there.
Some people got families; they have limited space. Like I could have a room for my kids, or I could put all my collectibles in there. It's a tough choice, I guess.
we'll take the collectibles.
Or both. Get your kids into gaming.
Yeah, it would help too.
Oh.
So, like with that point, my daughter has an Xbox One S. She's got Nintendo Switch. Does she play
Yeah.
them? Absolutely not. She plays her tablets and plays Roblox. Like she
My
doesn't
son's
play
got-
them.
Son's got a Switch and my old Xbox One X, and plays them both. Plays Minecraft on his Xbox One X and Animal Crossing on the Switch.
That's the only thing she plays on her Switch is Minecraft. But it's her tablet is enough for her, and it's. I try, I play, but after an hour of playing, like, we played New Super Mario Bros. U the other day, the deluxe version they put on the Switch. She could have about an hour of that before she's bored because she can't run around do whatever she wants on Roblox. So it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tablet gaming's gotten a lot better. Like I have a friend who's like he's in a lot of retro and he's got a crazy retro collection, but he keeps always reminding me, hey, tablet games have gone away from Catchy Crystal 2. Like there's some really in-depth
Oh, there it
weird
is. for sure.
gaming stuff on tablets now, which is like because the graphics are, comparable to like a Switch,
Better.
and even better. And so like, it's just cool to see the evolution where you can like choose anything and get to play whatever you want now these days. Seems like.
I agree. We were talking last night. There's a new Nier game that's mobile exclusive, and it looks better than either of the other Nier games. Like it's like a full-fledged game, so
It's cool.
it's kind of cool. I can't get into mobile gaming much. It's hard for me, but it's cool that that option's there for people. So
I mean, it's like part of it too is that like, what's the word? The invasive like have to buy this, you have to do this.
It's like
that-
the microtransactions and stuff like that.
Oh, those, yeah.
I do recommend if you want to play a free mobile game that's free and free to play, Vampire Survivors.
everybody's talking about that one.
Check it out. Check it out. Talk about it on your podcast. Vampire
it-
Survivors.
Is
Free.
it mobile only?
It's on Game Pass, so check it out on Game Pass. And it's like a $4 game on Steam. And if you haven't played it, it's worth the conversation.
I've seen
Check it
posts
out.
about that for the last 3 days straight. Everybody's talking about
Oh
it.
yeah.
I'm gonna download it right after this podcast. So I'll check it out.
It out.
Gotta download it right
Game
now.
Pass. Game Pass is my version that I like to play the most.
Yeah.
I think it just plays pretty great. But Steam one's good. I played it on my Steam Deck, but yeah, check out Vampire Survivors.
I'm going to do that then for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we
I
do got some chat here.
But I
Mark,
had some.
did you
I had
wanna-
some of my, but it's gone. I don't know if I'm gonna remember it in time. You can keep going.
Okay, yeah, I mean we've missed a bunch. I apologize, guys. There's been a lot of comments, but we'll try to spotlight a few here. We've got Retro Tiburon says I mostly buy Switch games digitally. It's more convenient. Joshua says wish more older game stores were around with better prices, or GameStop even sold them again. Yeah, the retro stuff.
Yeah.
Retro Wildland says so do I. Would really like physical, but at the same time I can't always afford it. At the end of the day, I just want to play games, and if it's cheaper on there, I'll get it.
Right.
Got Josh saying, I got a small corner in my kid's playroom, toy room. Occasionally, my kid will play with Pokemon Stadium or Spyro. Also said, play Thomas the Tank Engine on Super Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Cool stuff, man. Love it.
Oh, I want to say. I know you say your daughter plays Minecraft on the Switch. I'm sorry, I can't play that game. I have to play that game with a keyboard and mouse. It's just so much harder to use a joystick.
I've never played it on PC. I don't like Minecraft, so it's not my thing at all.
I think it's very relaxed. Nothing's more
Can't
relaxing
understand
than just mining in a straight line for thousands of blocks. Just mindlessly listen to like a podcast.
I mean, my son's played it for as long as he's been able to game, like 10 plus years. He's 14, so he's played it when he's like 4 or 5. And so funny, like that's like a whole generation. That's like their game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't always like the upgrades that Microsoft has done, but there's so many different ways you can play this. Mods you can play on vanilla Switch or vanilla Xbox version. But
and if you have
it's a gorgeous game.
It is, and if you have the Java version on PC, you can go back and play older versions of the game and stuff like that. So you can go back to like the alpha, beta builds of the game, and if that's what you want, you can just play that. So, what I think is really, really neat for a game to say, hey, you can still go back and play older versions of the game until they decide to get rid of it. But
yeah, Minecraft is just a beautiful game. I love the soundtrack. The piano music is peaceful. I play it in my class. I play only music without any words. I typically do instrumental piano style music for relaxing, like on Fun Friday or something.
Yeah.
In my
it's very simple,
class.
very relaxed. It's just like you just mind away, you just listen to something. It's really good, just background music that you don't even realize is playing until you just like, whoa.
Survival mode has different music, right? Like completely different music.
I think it's the
I
same.
might be wrong. That's the only version I can play because I'm not creative at all, but that's just me.
At least you played it. It's cool.
Eep said Minecraft on PSVR is cool. I've not tried that.
I have seen people do it. It's a very unique thing. I don't think you could play it forever, but I've seen people play Minecraft in VR, especially some of those YouTube Minecrafters, and it seems pretty interesting, assuming you don't have motion sickness, because you can climb up, you can jump off a cliff and something like that.
For sure. Well, I think we'll end this here so we can let John go. We'll cover a few of our sponsors here. We've got our Linktree, which will be in the description below. Of course, our Patreon, merch links, all that stuff. We've got Dubby Energy with their patented Neurofactor formula. Get the focus and energy you need with zero jitters or crash. Dubby, be better. 10% off with our code GameJunction1. And then we've got Reaper Apparel, not just clothing, but a lifestyle and a daily reminder to escape the mundane. Reaper Apparel, built for those who refuse to die slowly. 10% off with Game Junction Podcast. And that is all we've got. John, would you like to plug anything? Plug your channel. We'll have all the links for you down below.
I just want to thank you for having me on. And if you want to check me out, you can look for John Hancock Retro on YouTube. And below, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok and Instagram. Recently doing some shorts, and so YouTube shorts, and so I'm sharing those on multiple platforms, and look forward to providing 3 videos a week, and occasional short and here and there. And so thank you for checking out any of my content.
Absolutely, we appreciate having you on. We'll have to have you back on again sometime, and it's been
It'll
good
be great.
time.
I'd love to. Love to come back.
All
Definitely.
right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.
All right. See y'all later.